Simone's out-of-office message was a work of fiction. Away from my desk until Monday. Will respond when I return. Meanwhile, she was responding to a client email from a beach chair in Cancun, her phone angled so the sun wouldn't create glare on the screen. Her husband didn't say anything. He'd stopped saying anything about it months ago. The last time Simone was actually, completely, no bullshit disconnected from work was April 17th, 2023. She remembers because it was her grandmother's funeral, and even then, she'd checked Slack twice in the bathroom. Not because anyone asked her to, because the alternative, not knowing what was happening, felt worse than grief. Simone is a product manager at a mid-sized tech company. She's good at her job, maybe too good, because somewhere along the way, good at her job became available at all times for her job, and she has no idea when that happened or how to undo it. The thing nobody tells you about flexibility is that it only bends one way. It started innocently enough, a quick Slack check during dinner because a launch was happening, an email response on Saturday morning because it would only take 2 minutes, a call from the car because she was just sitting in traffic anyway, might as well be productive. Each individual instance made perfect sense. Each one felt like a choice. But choices, repeated enough times, stop being choices. They become baseline expectations. Not from her boss, not from her team, but from herself. The prison guard and the prisoner. Same person. By month 3 of this pattern, Simone had developed a tell. Whenever her phone buzzed during non-work hours, her shoulders would tense before she even looked at the screen. By month 6, she was preemptively checking Slack to avoid the anxiety of seeing an unread badge. By month 12, she'd convinced herself this was normal. Everyone does this, she told her husband over yet another interrupted dinner. It's just how modern work is. He looked at her phone, then at her face, then back at his food. Sure, he said. The worst part wasn't the work itself. It was the mental gymnastics required to pretend she wasn't working. She'd check email while her husband talked about his day, nodding at appropriate intervals while reading about Q3 projections. She'd take calls during her kids' soccer practice, pacing behind the bleachers like she was walking for exercise. She'd draft product specs during movies, the glow of her laptop casting shadows on her face while claiming she was just looking something up real quick. She wasn't lying exactly. Each interruption really was quick. But quick interruptions every 30 minutes for 14 months straight create a particular kind of exhaustion that doesn't have a name because we're all too tired to invent one. The breaking point came in Costa Rica. They'd planned the trip for 8 months, a full week, no work, actual vacation. Simone had meant it. She'd set up her out-of-office message, briefed her team twice, made sure every project had coverage. Day 1, she lasted until 11 a.m. before just checking in. Day 2, she was in a full Zoom meeting from the hotel business center while her family went ziplining. Day 3, her husband found her at 6 a.m. on the balcony typing furiously on her laptop. "What's the emergency?" he asked. She looked up, genuinely confused. "What?" "The emergency. What's on fire that you're up at 6 a.m. on vacation?" Simone glanced at her screen. She was triaging feature requests that weren't due for 2 weeks. There was no emergency. There was never an emergency. "I'm just staying on top of things." "You're not on top of things," he said quietly. "You're underneath them, and you can't tell the difference anymore." The truth landed like a slap. She wanted to defend herself, to explain that her job was demanding, that product management meant constant coordination, that if she dropped the ball, everything would fall apart. But as she started to form the words, a horrifying thought occurred to her. What if she was wrong? What if she stopped responding after 6 p.m. and nothing happened? What if she took a real vacation and the company didn't implode? What if all this availability was solving a problem that didn't actually exist? Worse, what if her team had calibrated their expectations around her over-availability, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy where she had to always be on because she trained everyone to expect it? She tested it on the flight home. Phone in airplane mode for 5 hours. When she landed, she had 19 messages. 17 were people sharing information she didn't need. 2 were actual questions, neither urgent. the world had not ended. The real shift happened by accident. 2 weeks after Costa Rica, Simone got food poisoning. Actual, can't leave the bathroom for 12 hours food poisoning. She didn't check Slack, she didn't read email. She was physically incapable of working, and for the first time in over a year, she had a legitimate excuse not to. The next morning, she logged in, expecting chaos. Her team had made decisions without her. Good decisions. The junior PM had unblocked a stuck project. The engineer she'd been hand-holding had shipped a feature independently. The crisis she'd imagined, the one that her absence caused catastrophe, had never materialized. They didn't need her to be always on. They needed her to be competent when she was actually on. The revelation was humiliating and liberating in equal measure. Simone didn't quit her job or have some dramatic confrontation with her boss. She didn't implement a rigid no work after 6 p.m. rule or delete Slack from her phone. Instead, she did something smaller and infinitely harder. She started treating her availability like the finite resource it actually was. She set actual office hours, not for her team, but for herself, a boundary that existed whether anyone else acknowledged it or not. She stopped preemptively checking messages to avoid anxiety and let herself feel the discomfort of not knowing for a few hours. She practiced saying, "I'll look at that tomorrow," without apologizing or justifying. The first week felt like withdrawal. Her hands literally itched to check her phone during dinner. The anxiety of potentially missing something urgent made her stomach hurt. But the urgent thing never came. Week 2, she noticed something strange. Her team's communication got clearer. When they knew she wasn't instantly available, they stopped sending half-formed thoughts and started sending complete questions. The absence of constant availability forced everyone, including her, to think before communicating. By week 4, she'd reclaimed roughly 12 hours of her life, not by working less, but by actually stopping when she stopped. Her husband noticed first, not because she announced it, but because she was present during dinner. Actually present. Eyes on him, phone in another room, mind not half focused on tomorrow's sprint planning. He said, "You seem different." "I'm the same. I'm just here." It wasn't a perfect system. She still occasionally checked email on weekends. She still felt the pull of her phone during off hours. But the difference was intentionality. Each time she chose to work outside work hours, it was actually a choice, not an automatic reflex driven by anxiety. The trap hadn't been her job. It had been her fear that she was only valuable as her availability. 3 months later, during a team meeting, her boss mentioned being impressed by her improved focus. Simone almost laughed. She wasn't doing more work. She was doing less work better. But from the outside, presence looks like productivity, and constant availability looks like dedication, even when it's really just panic and professional clothing. She didn't correct him. Instead, she closed her laptop at 5:47 p.m., 23 minutes before the end of her workday, and went home. Her out-of-office message when she finally took another vacation was simpler. Out until Monday. For urgent matters, contact backup. This time, it was true.